Alright, so you want to polish your cast iron pan. Let's go over a few things here, what you're going to need. First thing is a tool. This is a Bauer variable speed 3500 grinder. Goes all the way up to 3500 RPMs. Down to 600. So this is going to be able to sand and polish. You can get that at Harbor Freight. I don't really know where else sells them, but I'll put a link in the description and stuff. So the next thing you're going to need is the kit. Right here. You're going to get your sanding pad. You're going to get 10 sheets of heavy duty 80 grit. 10 sheets of 180 grit. 10 sheets of 220. 5 sheets of like heavier duty 320, and then like a lighter 320 to kind of reduce the scratches. And that's all we're gonna need right now to sand it. So that's all this video is gonna include, is the sanding. I'll do a part 2 that'll include the the polishing, the wheel, all that kind of bullshit stuff. I don't know if I can say that. The other thing here is the clamp, like the jaw horse. I have one because I use it every day. Not every day, but I use it to polish. So if you're gonna want to do this, consider how you're gonna fasten it and hold it, because it's kind of a pain. And this is the ticket. You can get these anywhere online, marketplace, for 50 to 150 bucks brand new. They're 150 to $300, depending on what brand you want. This is a strong way. So right now it's locked. It's not going anywhere. You can pick this thing up. You unlock it. And there's rubber in here, so you're not gonna break a handle or scratch shit, nothing like that. You really clamp it in there. So that's not going anywhere. That's what we use. No DA sanding, none of that bull, none of that crap. No. You're gonna need a respirator. I'll go grab that. So for video purposes, I'm gonna speed the video up, and then I'll come back, and if I have anything to add, instructions or whatever, I'll add that. But I always start this way, do it here, flip the pin, and do it here. That's the way I do it. With the bottom of the pan, you're gonna wanna hold this as almost flat and just a slight tilt to it to keep it from bouncing around. And again, you're gonna wanna do everything in long swings, long motions, no chopping. It's gonna create uneven surfaces and make it much harder to just get smooth. It's not gonna look right. So just follow along and we'll sand her down. Okay, so that was not too bad. This here is just actually a little moisture. Do not get any water on this. It's very hot. It will rust instantly. So you can decide how far you want to take it. Like, obviously there's pitting down here. So when you're sanding this side, you can only get so far. But when you put it when you put it flat like this, when you're going against the wall here, if you just hold this up a little bit, you'll be able to sand that when you're going around. It digs a little bit, but you'll be able to get it out with the other steps. So it'll all look good once we go to polish it, or when you finish sanding it, it'll all look all right. So you could stop there if you wanted to. You can stop whatever point you want to. You can keep going. For polishing purposes and demonstration, I'm going to jump to the next grit, and we're gonna keep sanding. Oh, a key point I forgot to mention, I still have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 pieces of sandpaper, so that gives people some room for error. I mean, it's really not that hard. It might take 1 or 2 pieces to really get the hang of it. It's pretty simple though. It's really not that bad. As long as you go slower to go faster. Now, once you get more comfortable with it, you can speed up, but we're gonna jump to the next grit, and like I said, for demonstration purposes, we're gonna move on. So up here, you'll see some of those chop marks that I was talking about. And then here you can see that you can sand them out. So those will come out in polishing too. Everything will look smooth. But the trick is to just keep it nice, smooth, long strokes. Giggity. So that's kind of what it should look like after 180. I'd say probably 95% of the pips are out. There's some very fine ones. But even this one in the handle here, and I wasn't even trying to get it out, that came out with the next grit, 180 grit. So again, you can decide how far you want to take it, but you know, keep in mind when you start with 80, you still have a couple more other steps to go. So don't focus on getting it perfect on the first one. So the handle's done, everything's done. So we're gonna go ahead and jump to 220, and then I'll stop at I'll stop when I gotta switch from the heavy grit 320 to the lighter grit, and then I'll explain that. So I got it sanded up to 320 with the purple stuff here, which is the heavier grit. It's pretty durable. Lasts a decent amount of time for this cast iron. This metal is very hard. So next we're gonna use this yellow 320, which is a bit lighter. You can feel the difference. That's just gonna lighten the scratches a little more. Just go back over it and make the cut marks not as deep. So the other important thing is you want to be able to look through these sanding marks to make sure your previous grit is all out. So that's, I mean, you can probably do definitely 1 or 2 pans with this kit. This is what I have left. So, you know, a couple pieces of the 80, a couple pieces of the 180, 220, lots of 220 left. And then I got this 320, which the idea is here to use all this. So, if you have any questions, let me know. We're gonna finish this pan out with 320, and then I'll be back to show you guys the final result. There it is, sanded. She's ready to be polished. Now you can't go polish this just with any wheel and compound. I mean, you can, but it's gonna take you a very long time to get through 320 grit. So that's why we have come out with a kit, especially for this stuff. I'm waiting on some wheels and some testing, and then we'll be ready. So this is how to sand it. And then, like I said, I still have some 80 grit left, some 180, and some 220. So if you really wanted to, you could probably sand two pans. Yeah, you could probably do 2 pans, and then with 320 grit, you could probably cut out the purple sandpaper marks, the 320 rotary marks, but I mean, it's really developed for 1 pan, and it's developed for, you know, guys who aren't as efficient. So I expect more people to use more of this lower grit paper here. That's why, you know, there's extra. I also make the kit for sanding a couple of different pans. So with the other kit, you get 25 pieces of the 80 grit, 50 pieces of 180 grit, 50 pieces of 220 grit, 50 pieces of 320 grit, 25 of the light and 25 again of the heavy. So again, the light is just makes it easier to cut out. And then you also get 2 rotary pads in the other kit. That's the Weekend Warrior kit. If you get a couple different pans, you know, old granny handed them down to you or whatever. And then I think I'm gonna throw some of these masks in the kits. I got a bunch of these, so I'll probably throw some of these in. I gotta get individual bagging for them, because, you know, I don't want to be touching you guys' masks and stuff like that. So here you go. Here's the 2 kits. So here they are. That's what you'll get in order to do this. And this is part 1. I'll make a polishing part here in a little bit. I'm waiting on some wheels. So if you guys could like, comment, share, subscribe. Subscribe is the biggest one. I'm really trying to grow this channel and maybe do more polishing videos, things like that. So there you have it. Let me know if you have any questions.